Yes. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. It's always good to see good crowds, and the exemplary nights, we're here for a special reason, parents, grandparents, students alike, to recognize some special people here in the district. And we'd like to move forward with that presentation tonight. We're going to start backwards and work with our staff, because so many times we get to our staff and everybody's left already and you don't get to appreciate. They're the ones really that help your child exceed and excel in their education here at the district. And so we have three individuals we'd like to present to you this evening from our staff. And to start with the building first at Schneider Elementary, most of you know Barbie Burns. Would you like to come forward, please? How many people had their children taught by Bobby Burns here? I bet you a lot. All right.
No.
Remain standing up here, Barbie. Yeah. In the corner. We have from the Blue Ridge Intermediate Junior High School, we have Zach Markopoulos with us this evening. And from the Blue Ridge High School staff, we have Elizabeth Raines here this evening as well. Stay up here, please. Barbie, come over here for a picture now. Thank you very much. Now we're going to be working from the older kids down to the younger ones, and we have here our students who have excelled, and they have excelled so much that their names were presented for this presentation tonight. When you get the monthly newsletter, there's always little excerpts there about why these students stood out, and always take time to read that, because it's always nice to see how kids are actually growing and being able to exert themselves, see where their growth in their education is as well. We have with us here from the Blue Ridge High School, Bree Flannel, and I think it's Madison Wingert here this evening. If you'd both come up. We have an 8th grader with us this evening, Devin Ressler. Seventh grader Caleb Buskirk, who is not here this evening, so give him a shout out on the virtual shout out there. The 6th grader, we have Lana Malsbury. Come on up. Right, that's right, come on down. We have 5th grader here this evening, Billy Peterson. 4th grader Oliver Vandiver. Yes. And we have 3rd grader here, Braylon Wooling. Second grade, Madison Hoffman. First grade, Camden Shaw. Wow. And from kindergarten, we have Margaret Leonard. If we can all get you in a tighter group here so we can get a group photo of you. Any parents, grandparents want to get a picture, you can come up to the front real quick and get one. All right. Let's give him one more hand. Thank you. Keep up the good work. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. You're welcome to leave if you'd like to at this moment. Give us a slight transition time here. You have to stay.
Yeah. Now you can do your speech. We told her she had to give a speech.
Oh, I have her VBS.
Move forward with our meeting here. Do we have any communication this month? Look like?
I don't have a green light, guys. One communication, it was fake email.
Reports. We have no committee reports this month.
Correct.
Administrative report.
That'll be me. You have my report in front of you. I'll highlight a few things for you. We'll go down to the draft goals for the facilities area, starting back with our strategic planning. The broad board goal that was given to us to work on was develop short-term and long-term maintenance plan, incorporating input from the HLS study. So our drafted sub-goal would be the superintendent, O&M supervisor, and facilities committee will meet every 6 months to update the O&M project list and the HLS list to ensure that A, B, and C list items are completed in a timely fashion. Again, as a reminder, A list items from the HLS list should be done within a year, B list within 5 years, and then C is recommended. And goal 4.2 was given to us, upgrade track and football field, including Memorial Plaza. That's a very large, long-term goal. The sub-goal that we're proposing to you is that beginning in spring of 2023, we would examine community fundraising and wind farm tax revenue as funding sources for the installation of an all-weather track, Memorial Plaza, and football field upgrade. And when we're ready to move forward with the project, we would form a committee to support the fundraising and promotion efforts. And we've also been asked to look at the mission statement. We're working on taking the mission statement that we've had, which is wonderful, but it's very lengthy and a bit outdated. And so we would like to take a look at refreshing that a little bit as we're doing some other work across the district. And so I have enlisted the help of the district leadership team. We're meeting at the end of the month to take a look at some of the wording and things that were the vision that was cast for us back in October of 2021. So we hope to be able to bring that to you in the next month or two.
Appreciate that. That all came through a strategic planning meeting that we had on the Saturday morning, and it was a great time there. And I remember that Paige was sitting against the back wall, and we were asking about mission statement. All of a sudden, she got this euphoria and just started sharing some things that were really excellent. So it's great that we can get people together and really work together to iron it. We're going to move forward on to our principal reports. And Ryan, could you come at this time?
And you have my report, but we're going to go straight into the proposal for a second and third grade teacher for you guys today. So we are looking at just doing that, adding a second section or a third section of both second grade and third grade. And tonight we're going to talk about just how positive effect size, or the positive effect of smaller class sizes. Yeah. Maybe just hit arrow. Try to, there we go. All right, so we're going to start by, a lot of you are familiar with that evidence-based funding model that was put out several years ago. Based on that model, or right when that came out, it also came out a research brief, and that brief basically looked at a variety of research and evidence from across the country and put together kind of some recommendations for how to allocate that money. Based on that information, I mean, they looked at a variety of things: funding on technology, funding on a variety of staffing issues, curriculum, et cetera. But one of the class size conversations that came up with recommendations was that they're recommending a staff ratio of basically 1 to 15 for students and teachers. Based on that, really two studies were mentioned: the Adequacy for Excellence in Kentucky, then also the Tennessee Star Research. Both of those basically showed that when there were smaller class sizes, there were a variety of positive impacts. 1 and 2 being reading and math, saw higher gains there. Another piece that we saw, or from that research, was basically there were a lot of short-term and then also longitudinal growth from students that experienced those low class sizes or smaller class sizes early on in their education. Last but not least, the biggest gain, the area that grew the most was the demographic of low-income students. Our building right now is about 40.8%, so 41% of our students are considered low income, and those students saw immense, quite a bit of growth compared to any other area. So that's a really important piece to look at as we talk about. Didn't have this on, did I? As we talk.
I'm so nervous. Okay, can everybody hear me? Oh, okay. Oh, hi, online people. All right, my name is Carrie Brackenhoff. I am new to Blue Ridge this year and so happy to be here. I did my research on kind of the short and long-term effects of small class sizes, and I used the STAR research program that Mr. Payton referenced earlier. One thing that was really interesting is that there were a lot of people that took that research study and extrapolated some data and just really dove in and looked at the positive effects and what came out of that. So that is my focus. So what they did was they placed students in class sizes of 13 to 17 and 22 to 25. And those students were tracked and they were assessed several years later to see what those effects were. On average, higher achievements were seen in language, reading, math, science, and social studies, so really across the board. There was higher participation in learning activities, higher graduation rate from high school, which I think is really important to notice, and stronger student-teacher relationships, which I know for us that is just a really big deal to be able to build those relationships with our students, and having less students gives us more opportunity to build relationships with them. Teachers were able to track student learning and construct more differentiated instruction. So really be aware of where everybody was and how they were performing, and they could modify their instruction based off of their needs and close those achievement gaps. And there was also higher teacher retention with those teachers with smaller class sizes. This graph here is representing data from 4,948 students who participated in this Project STAR. And it found that the more years students spent in smaller class sizes had an increasing effect on the odds of completing high school. And then the blue line are students who are not eligible for free lunch, and the red line were students who were eligible for free lunch, so those lower income students. And you can see that they made huge growth being in those smaller class sizes, and it really increased their odds of completing high school and graduating. So positive effects of small class sizes in research from school districts in Texas, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. 419 schools were looked at, and these were urban districts serving mostly low-income students, and they found that the most powerful indicator of changes in reading and math scores were decreased student-to-teacher ratio. So that was the most successful way to raise these student scores and close those achievement gaps. Small class size is associated with improvements in non-cognitive skills also that are related to the psychological engagement with school. So students showed more positive interactions with teachers, peers, and academics in general, more motivated and happy to be at school. There were higher levels of interest and motivation, lower levels of boredom and anxiety. They were more engaged, and just a greater sense of belonging in their class and in their school. Long-term and beyond the test scores, research has found that reducing that class size can influence socioeconomic factors as well, including earning potential, improved citizenship, and decreased crime and welfare dependence, and an increased probability of attending college. And that really, for me, is the most impactful thing, is that having a smaller class size at a young age, it's not just about now, it's about what will that do for our students moving forward, and how will it impact and benefit them. So, okay.
All right, I guess I'm done.
Pass the torch.
Thanks. Is it on? All right, sorry. Okay, I'm Mr. Moore, Caleb Moore. I've been over at Schneider for a while now, if you don't know who I am, but I kind of did just more of a broader sense of I guess, research. The research I looked at, they took 3 different types of data collection where they looked at teacher questionnaires, systematic observations, and case studies. And so when they went through this, they picked 486 random teachers. They just questioned them on certain aspects of having a large class size, a big class size, and how they felt about it, and like the negative and the positive they could see out of both. And within that, they had 10 random schools selected, and in those 10 random schools, there's 22,312 observations between small and large class sizes. So I've got a couple charts that I thought were kind of interesting that kind of shows the, basically, it's kind of odd here. We got the probability of the pupil being the focus of the teacher. So when you're teaching and you have a larger class size, you know, you're not able to 100% focus on every single one of those students. And at the bottom, as the number of pupils or students increases, you see that the probability of the teacher's focus on specific students declines. So like, you know, when I was doing this, I kind of looked in this range just as like we have about 20, 24 students, just give or take a different year. And like right in that range, you kind of see that the probability really dips as to if they're the focus of the teacher. And then on the kind of the flip side, the probability of interaction of the student with the teacher as the class size increases. So again, you have as the number of students in a classroom increases, the interaction with the educator will decline. So again, I kind of like to look at how we had that range where we are, and you can kind of see how that probability will decline depending on class size. Now here's the really interesting one. I had a hard time explaining it at first, but this is on-task and off-task behavior, something that we see, you know, a lot. That's kind of a big part, not a big part, but a part of when we're in the classroom, keeping those students focused, keeping them on task, making sure they're engaged. So through the same research, what we saw here was with the probability of the student being off task. When you have, they surveyed or watched, they selected 9 random students from these 10 different classrooms, low level, medium, and high. And so what they found was as they were going through it as the class size, so you have the pupils down here, the students down here, 10, 20, 30, and then the probability of them being off task. And I thought it was kind of interesting, and Mrs. Wilkinson pointed this out when we were in our meeting, is that right here in the range of about where they said 15 to 16, you see they're all kind of together where it crosses, where they're generally on task. They're not off task because the probability is lower. But as we increase the size of the classes, you can kind of see, and I put a little dashed line here, kind of where we usually are between 20 and 25, just give or take, that those low-level learners, their probability of being off task, you know, it jumps quite a bit, where those medium and high-level learners, I would guess because they're going to stand out more, actually their probability of being off task kind of drops. And same thing, not same thing, but kind of, on this one is the probability of being on task as the number of students increases. You see that again in that range, that 10 to, or sorry, oops, that 8 to 15 or whatever, so they're kind of, what did I do? Oh, sorry, you'd think I never used Google Slides before. Kind of all together, but then as the class size increases, you can see where that those low-level students take a huge dive on them being on task during the lessons. So, all right.
All right, I'm Kristen Wilkinson, 3rd grade teacher. I kind of focused more on how we would see the effects in our classroom. We all, as teachers and educators, know the smaller classes, the more we're going to be able to really interact with the students, and again, having them on task. But I kind of just looked at our schedule and how that's really going to impact our students. So you'll see down here, it's kind of a lot, but I kind of looked at 24 kids versus 16 kids, and this is for our guided reading, our small reading groups. Right now, my groups are 4 to 6 students. I'm still able to meet with one group every day, those kids who really need it, but my medium to high level kids, I don't get to see as much, and those are the larger groups. Where if we go to a class of 16, I'm able to meet with those groups a lot more often, and the size of the group stays smaller, which really, it's more consistent, and it's more effective. I'm able to differentiate a lot better with those students. And then same thing for math. In my classroom, I do math centers every day. With 24 kids, I have 3 groups no matter what. But with 24 kids, my last group, my medium to high level kids, that's a group of 16. That's hard to differentiate and give that quick feedback that really helps them understand and make those adjustments when that group size is so big. Whereas if I had a class of 16, that cuts my last group down to 8. So I'm able to really provide that fast and effective feedback to them and really differentiate better for them. Also, we talk in math, especially younger grades, we need to do a lot of hands-on stuff. And just even passing out materials, collecting materials. When we have a smaller level, it's easier to get them out and back, and we don't lose time that we could use to teach. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, and that is it. That's all we have for tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. But we appreciate your time and we appreciate your attention.
See the need coming in the future here as far as which grade level? Where are you going to see the numbers that are going to be affected first?
Well, so next year, so currently right now in first grade, we now have 50 kids. We have 3 sections though there, and we've had move-ins though recently. And so, you know, that's getting to a point where typically we would like to go into 3 sections just because of that number. In second grade currently, and they'll be in third grade next year, those numbers are basically at 48. So it's right there, very close. Kindergarten this year is actually 61. It's our biggest group that we've had in a long time. Those are 3 sections. So if that group stays, you know, we'll need a 3rd section at some point in a couple of years for sure anyway. And then incoming kindergarten, we had 42 come to registration. Usually, typically, we have anywhere between 5 and 10 kids that we'll see register in August. So that should put us potentially around 47 to 50, somewhere in that area. Last year, we had about 12 to 13 show in August, which really pushed our numbers and was just very different than most years.
All right. Any other questions for anybody? All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. Yeah. Katie, are you take the microphone, please? The podium's gone.
Stand in the middle. A couple of things I wanted to highlight. This Friday, we are going to have our quarter-long PBIS celebration, and we're going to try something new that we've never done before. We're going to have a bingo hall, and we're pretty excited about that. Also, on 4/1, we're going to have our family reading night. We have not had that event, or I guess the last time we had that event was right before the shutdown. So we're excited to get to bring that back. We'll have a lot of fun activities. It'll coincide with our book fair, of course, a lot of things for the families to come and do. And then starting the week after we come back from spring break, the junior high team has put together a homework club, and students will get to stay on Wednesday nights and have work with 2 different staff members until about 5:30 or whenever the activity bus comes, and then the activity bus will come and do the run. So even kids who can't get a ride, which prohibits kids from staying sometimes after school to get extra help, they'll be able to ride that activity bus and get dropped off here and then in Bellflower as well. So we're hoping to see some positive impacts from that. Do you have any questions for me? Okay.
Alrighty. One of the things that I mentioned in the report, it is weird not having a podium to set stuff on, but one of the things I mentioned in the report was about tracking discipline data. Modified that just slightly how we were doing it. As I watched things transpire over the first semester, I noticed some gaps in things that we were doing, and I've tried to get a little bit better handle on it. So it looked to me when I was putting in the numbers this time that, you know, we had a few more detentions this time around. I think I'm trying to utilize the lunchtime detention a little bit more because I recognize we have a lot of kids that ride buses or, have other after-school commitments. And so I might have to give them 2 lunch detentions to offset an after-school. So just trying to work with them through some of those things. And also just, I feel like I'm tracking them a little bit more consistently in that regard. So we may see a little bit of increased numbers, but that's just because of a change of how we're doing that. On a positive note, one of the things our celebrations committee is doing this month is we decided for the month of March, leading up to spring break, if kids had perfect attendance with no tardies, not being late, no unexcused absences, anything like that, we're doing a rewards thing for them on Friday morning. They'll get out of class a little bit early at the end of first hour, come down to the Commons. We're picking up Krispy Kreme donuts, and we'll have milk and fruit and stuff like that, and just have a little celebration. And as of right now, I think that number is looking like about 120 to 125 kids that have earned that. So most of our kids are doing a really good job. And actually, the numbers might be a little less than that. We have a field trip that's gone that day that impacts some kids, and yeah, so, but it seems really good. Most of our kids are doing a really good job attendance-wise, and so I want to celebrate that. Other positive stuff, that Fine Arts Expo that was here last week. I wasn't sure what to expect my first time around. It was amazing. So I don't know if you guys have been to that before. Strongly encourage you to come check this out next year whenever they do that. Mrs. Weber had art displays here in the hallways, and the kids and the teachers and everybody that came that night, they all voted on their favorite things. Just, our kids do amazing artwork. It's just, it's really phenomenal to see. And then we had a jazz combo that played some stuff in the gym. We had some students do some solo things. Just really a neat night. So if you haven't seen that before, I strongly encourage it. And then a couple nights after that, we had Sadie Hawkins dance in that gym, and it was by far the best dance I've ever supervised in my life. The kids were well behaved. The music was well selected. I worked very closely with the student to make sure all that was appropriate, and it just was a fantastic night. So I don't know, feels like the things are going in the right direction for spring, and we had our last snow day ever last week for this year, hands down, right? So here we go. Who's next? Oh, I'm sorry. Questions?
I think it's Saturday.
That's okay. There's no school for like another week and a half, so we're good.
All right, moving on to curriculum page.
Okay, I don't think I have anything in addition to add to my report. This time of year is extremely busy for me and somewhat confusing because I'm in between. I'm wrapping up this year when it comes to grants and writing amendments, but then also looking towards what we need to be allotting for next year. So it can get kind of confusing, which year am I working in? Same with professional development. I am just finalizing plans for our April Teacher Institute Day, as well as planning all of the summer PD. And right now I'm also working on Induction Day in August for our new staff, and looking at Curriculum Day and Institute Day. So it's kind of a confusing place to be right now. But do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to approval of the consent items. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items listed on attachment A as presented. Carlos? Francie? Yes. All right, we do have, just backtrack a little bit. Actually, we have a Goose Creek representative here this evening with us again. Yeah, would you like to come forward?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for the item that's on your agenda tonight, and I was just here to answer any questions if you had it, to vote for that letter of support, but we certainly appreciate it, and obviously, hopefully we can help out with some of the issues you guys are talking about with staffing and stuff by bringing more revenue to the community. So just excited to be here and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion before us here over the Goose Creek Wind Farm. for motion to approve the resolution of support for Goose Creek Wind Farm as presented. Carlos? Francie? Roll call? Yes. Anything you want to add to that? All right. Okay. New business, we have press 108 policy 4120 food services, nothing there. So we'll move on to fee proposal for the GHR.
And you saw in your packet that GHR is helping us with the VAV box replacement here at the high school. That's part 2 of that big project that should finish us up. We started in the summer of 2020 and hope to finish this summer 2022 with the replacement of those boxes.
So we need a motion and a second to approve the GHR fee proposal for engineering services for the VAV box project at the Blue Ridge High School as presented. Kenna, Carlos? Yes. So that was a short new business, old business. So we're going to need a motion and a second to move from open session to closed session for discussion, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the school district or collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or the representatives at 7:31 p.m. Carlos? Kenna? Roll call? Oh, it's Francie? I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for coming in this evening. You're welcome to log back on whenever we come back out.